What if the person who abandoned a child suddenly came back, not to apologize but to take her away? My name is Christina, and even now, sitting in that courtroom, I could still feel the weight of everything that had happened over the last 10 years pressing down on my chest. Just moments earlier, the judge had opened the sealed folder my attorney handed over, and the entire atmosphere in the room changed instantly. The confidence on my sister Lily's face disappeared. Her husband Ryan looked nervous for the first time all day. Even my parents, who had spent years pretending they were on the right side of this story, suddenly couldn't look the judge in the eye. But to understand how it all came to this, you have to go back 10 years earlier, to the night my life changed forever. At the time, I was a high school English teacher living in a small town in Ohio. I was young, independent, and trying to build a future for myself. My life wasn't perfect, but it was stable. I had dreams, plans, routines, all the normal things people take for granted. Then one freezing December night, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, nobody was standing there. Instead, sitting on my doorstep, was a baby in a car seat. She was wrapped in a damp blanket, crying softly in the cold air. Beside her tiny hand was a folded note. The note was from my younger sister, Lily. She had disappeared and left her baby with me. I remember just standing there in shock, staring at this helpless little girl while snow drifted through the night around us. My hands were shaking as I picked her up and carried her inside. I had no crib, no formula, no diapers, no idea what I was supposed to do. I lived alone in a tiny one-bedroom apartment, and I had work in a few hours. Desperate, I called my parents, hoping they would help. But my mother sounded more irritated than concerned. When I explained what had happened, she sighed heavily like this was just another inconvenience. Then my father got on the phone and said something I'll never forget. "You're the responsible one, Christina. Deal with it." That was it. No concern for the baby. No concern for me. Just responsibility dumped into my lap like it was some kind of punishment. I looked down at that little girl and realized something in that moment. She wasn't a burden, she was an innocent child who needed someone to protect her. So I tried calling Lily over and over again, but every call went straight to voicemail. Panicking, I called my boyfriend Jake. We'd been together for over a year, and I thought he would support me. Instead, he asked if I was even sure the baby belonged to Lily, and then told me to call social services before I ruined my own life. I hung up on him immediately. That night, I drove to a 24-hour store with a crying baby in the back seat and absolutely no clue what I was doing. I remember standing frozen in the baby aisle, staring at shelves full of formula and diapers like they were written in another language. That's when an elderly woman noticed me struggling. She had kind eyes and a gentle voice, and without hesitation, she helped me pick out everything I needed: bottles, formula, wipes, diapers, tiny clothes, even a stuffed teddy bear I couldn't really afford. But I bought it anyway, because the thought of that baby waking up in my apartment with nothing that belonged to her broke my heart. That night, I made a makeshift crib out of a laundry basket lined with towels. I barely slept. Every tiny sound she made jolted me awake because I was terrified something would happen to her. The next morning, I requested emergency leave from school and contacted a family attorney named Miss Johnson. She explained that since Lily had abandoned the baby, I could petition for temporary guardianship, but she also gave me advice that would later save my life. Document everything, every call, every message, every interaction. At the time, I had no idea how important that advice would become. The first few months were chaos. I filed a police report for Lily's disappearance, but nobody seemed interested. Some people treated it like she had simply run away from responsibility. Meanwhile, I was trying to learn how to become a parent overnight. My coworkers became my support system. One colleague gave me a crib. Others dropped off hand-me-down baby clothes and grocery gift cards. But the people who should have cared the most, my own family, stayed distant. Jake came by once, saw the crib in my apartment, and told me this situation was too much for him. He said he hadn't signed up to raise someone else's child. I told him I hadn't signed up for it either, but I wasn't going to abandon a baby just because life became difficult. That was the end of our relationship. A week later, my parents visited. My mother looked around my apartment with judgment in her eyes and asked if I had really thought this through. My father barely acknowledged the baby at all. They didn't offer help. They didn't ask what I needed. They only wanted to know if I had heard from Lily. After they left, I unfolded Lily's note again. It said, "Her name is Ava. I can't do this. You have to. I'm sorry." No explanation, no promise to come back. Just abandonment disguised as an apology. I looked down at that little girl sleeping beside me and whispered something I would spend the next decade proving. "I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm not leaving you." Eventually, the court granted me temporary guardianship. And slowly, Ava became my entire world. I moved into a small 2-bedroom house outside town. My elderly neighbor, Mrs. Green, became like family. She taught me everything from how to calm tantrums to how to survive sleepless nights. And despite how hard things were, Ava brought joy into my life in ways I never expected. She had curly brown hair, bright blue eyes, and the kind of laugh that could light up an entire room. When she was little, she called me Chrissy because she couldn't pronounce Christina. Then one day, when she was 2 years old, she looked up at me and called me Mommy for the first time. I remember going into the bathroom afterward and crying, not because I wanted to replace anyone, but because somewhere along the way, without even realizing it, she had become my daughter. The years passed quickly. While my parents drifted in and out of our lives pretending to care, Ava and I built a real family together. I packed school lunches, stayed up through fevers, helped with homework, celebrated birthdays, comforted nightmares. I was there for every scraped knee, every school play, every moment that mattered. And then, when Ava was 10 years old, everything changed again. One Tuesday night, my phone rang. It was Lily, for the first time in 10 years. Her voice sounded older, calmer. She told me she had gone through rehab in California, had been sober for 7 years, and was now married to a man named Ryan. Then she said the words I had dreaded for a decade. "I want to see my daughter." I didn't know what to feel. Part of me was furious. Where had she been during the birthdays, the sicknesses, the sleepless nights? But another part of me knew Ava deserved answers. So carefully, slowly, I agreed to let them meet. With guidance from a child therapist, we introduced Lily into Ava's life gradually. Their first meeting happened at a park. Ava nervously called her Aunt Lily, and Lily cried the moment she heard it. At first, things seemed okay. But then Ryan started talking. He constantly mentioned better opportunities for Ava, a bigger house, better schools, a better future. Something about him always made me uneasy. And eventually, I learned why. A few months later, Lily and Ryan invited us to dinner at my parents' house. The second I walked inside, I knew something was wrong. My parents treated Lily and Ryan like honored guests. During dinner, Ryan casually announced that they believed Ava should live with them permanently. Lily said she wanted the chance to be a real mother. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. Then my father said Ava belonged with her biological mother, and my mother, the same woman who abandoned me when I needed help most, called my guardianship temporary. Beside me, Ava sat silently, confused and scared. I stood up immediately and took her home. On the drive back, she asked the question that shattered my heart. "Do I have to leave you?" I pulled the car over and promised her something with every ounce of certainty I had. "No one is taking you away from me. You are home." 3 weeks later, I was served with custody papers. Lily, supported by Ryan and my parents, was officially trying to take Ava from me. The court documents painted me as controlling and manipulative. According to them, I had intentionally kept Ava away from her real family. And worst of all, my parents backed those lies under oath. I was devastated, but I wasn't going down without a fight. Miss Johnson and I gathered every piece of evidence we could find. School records, medical documents, text messages, emails, years of proof showing who had actually raised Ava. And then we uncovered something disturbing. Ryan had been secretly searching for Ava's biological father, a wealthy businessman who had recently inherited a massive amount of money. That's when the truth became horrifyingly clear. This wasn't about family, it was about access to money. If Lily regained custody and established paternity, Ava could become their financial opportunity. We also discovered Ryan's business was drowning in debt. And even worse, there were messages between Ryan, Lily, and my parents planning how to manipulate the court and damage my reputation. The night before court, Ava climbed into my lap and asked me something I'll never forget. What if the people in these suits lie better than the people telling the truth? I hugged her tightly and told her the truth always matters in the end. Even though deep down, I was terrified. In court, Lily and Ryan presented themselves as loving parents who simply wanted a second chance. My parents repeated every lie they had rehearsed. Then it was our turn. Ava's teacher testified about my involvement in her life. Her therapist described the bond we shared. And when I took the stand, I told the truth. I told the court about the freezing December night Ava was left on my doorstep. About the sleepless nights, the sacrifices, the fear, the love, and then I said something that silenced the entire courtroom. There are many ways to abandon a child, but there's only one way to truly raise one, and that's by staying. Then Miss Johnson handed the judge the sealed folder. The evidence inside destroyed everything Lily and Ryan had claimed. The financial motives, the manipulative messages, the lies. One by one, their stories fell apart under the judge's questioning. And finally, after what felt like an eternity, the judge made his decision. He denied the custody petition completely. He stated clearly that Ava's best interests were with me, the person who had actually raised her. He also criticized the dishonesty and manipulation shown by Lily, Ryan, and my parents throughout the case. That afternoon, I picked Ava up from Mrs. Green's house. The moment she saw my face, she searched my eyes for the answer. I knelt down and smiled through tears. "You're coming home with me. Nothing changes." She burst into tears, wrapped her arms around me, and whispered, "You promised." In the years that followed, Lily eventually left Ryan. My parents tried pretending none of it had happened, but things were never the same. I set boundaries, strong ones. Ava continued therapy for a while, and slowly, the fear faded from her eyes. She became happy again, free again, and on her 11th birthday, she gave me a handmade card I still keep to this day. On the front, she had drawn the two of us standing together under an umbrella in the rain. Inside, she wrote, "To my mom who chose me every day, thank you for staying." And honestly, after everything we survived together, I realized something important. Family isn't built by blood, it's built by the people who stay when everyone else walks away.